Welcome, everybody, to episode 73 of Eat, Drink, Write, and Urban Fantasy Whiteboard. We're going to talk about character motivation today, which we've kind of done some episodes on different motivations, but this will be the first one where we're actually going into depth about what character motivation is.
Right.
But first, how was your week?
Oh, it's been pretty good. Still working on getting data for that paper. So that's really what's going on with work. So I'm under a time crunch and that's really a little bit stressful. And then we went to the pool. Me and my girlfriend went to the pool for the first time of the season.
Nice.
This past weekend, and that was lovely. I got a wicked sunburn. Yeah, it's actually already better today. I went yesterday and it's already way better today. So yay, blood, my blood or whatever.
Yeah, you got that American Indian, the Native American, whatever it is, Cherokee. That's it. Cherokee blood in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, your dad worked outside today. He's helping Jordan, daughter number 3, create an area outside where we used to have our above ground pool.
Oh yeah, she sent me a picture of like what she was wanting to do with it. So
it's going to be really cool. It's going to have a fire pit in the middle of it, and she's doing the gravel and all that kind of stuff. But he was helping her out there today, and he got sunburned. But like you, tomorrow it'll be a beautiful tan.
Yep.
That is not how my skin goes. I am very, very pale. So, and Jordan is as well. So she's burned and she's not going to turn into a beautiful tan.
Oh, yikes. That sucks.
My week, I was up in Virginia again.
Yep.
I think we podcasted from up there.
I think we did, yeah.
Last time, because my mom, your Nana, had fallen and broken her arm. I was able to do a lot of work and everything up there. They just are kind of helpless right now. I mean,
yeah.
What can you do with one arm?
Right.
And a broken tailbone, which that at least is much better.
Poor Nana's all beat up.
She is all beat up. She looks all beat up. Her face is black and blue. And then
she looked a lot better though while y'all were up there.
She is better. And then her grandpa is very weak.
Yeah.
And so like he couldn't even open his own Gatorade that he was trying to, and she can't open it because she's only got one arm.
Right.
So Aunt Debbie is going up there tomorrow.
Good.
The day this comes out, she'll be up there.
Yeah.
So that'll help. And then I have a feeling for a while because Nana went to the orthopedic doctor and there is no mending at all going on yet.
For her arm?
Yeah, no knitting at all showing on the x-ray. So it's going to be a long haul.
Yeah.
So I imagine I'm going to have to go up there again for another week at some point.
Yeah.
But we've got vacation coming up.
We do.
Which will be nice. So we'll podcast from up there. Same place we went last year and podcasted from, up in the mountains. So I'm very excited about that. I'm looking forward to that podcast episode.
Me too. That's going to be awesome.
So that's coming up. What are you eating and drinking?
So I've already eaten because we're recording a bit late. It's like 7 p.m. My wonderful girlfriend went and got me Zaxby's for lunch today.
Oh, nice.
And I had some leftovers from that. So I ate that for dinner. And then also some leftover sushi from Friday.
Oh,
which
nice.
is somewhat questionable, leftover sushi from a few days ago. But, well, whatever. So, but yeah, so that, and then I'm drinking chocolate milk because, I'm a kid at heart. So
that sounds lovely.
Yes.
I went out to dinner because Jordan is over here at working on our outside. We treated her and her husband. He came over to see what work she accomplished today while he was at work. And we took him out to a sushi place. So
nice.
We got sushi as well. And I had 2 Cosmopolitans, which is wonderful. But I don't have the stuff here at home to make a Cosmopolitan. So right now I'm drinking a Tangerine La Croix.
Oh, well, those are pretty good. That's not a bad sub.
They are pretty good. Yeah, the restaurant's air conditioning was broken.
Oh, yikes.
So it was a little hot.
Way too hot. Way too hot.
So this La Croix is nice and icy and cold. So
good.
That is kind of hitting the spot.
Absolutely.
All right. So I've got some jokes.
Oh, of course. Yes. I don't know how I forget every time that you have jokes, but I do. So,
well, one of our patrons, Deanna, seems to say that they're okay. So,
well, okay.
I'll keep doing it until she's like, please stop.
Good.
So because this week is about motivation, they're motivational jokes. So a motivational speaker gave blood. What was his blood type?
What is it?
B positive.
Oh, I should have guessed that. I'm too sleepy today. All right. Good one.
Why is James Bond a terrible motivation speaker?
Why?
Because the audiences are shaken, not stirred.
Listen.
What did Microsoft employees say to Bill Gates after his motivational speech?
What?
Word.
I like that one.
Okay, so motivation.
Yeah.
What is character motivation?
Tell me about it.
Character motivation is the reason behind a character's behaviors and actions, either in a given scene, well, actually throughout the whole book. I mean, that's why your character acts the way they act.
Right.
It's basically their needs, wants, and dreams. And it could be external needs, like relating to survival.
Yeah. Oh, so like, like Katniss needing to hunt to feed her family, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah. And they also might be internal needs like psychological or existential needs, such as love or professional achievement.
Oh, so I mean, other side of the coin, Katniss volunteering as tribute for her sister.
Probably so. That was the love of her sister, the need
Right.
to protect her family. It was, I think, an ultimate motivation for her throughout the entire book.
I think so too. Yeah.
Actually, throughout the entire series,
The
really.
entire series. Yeah.
Yeah. Motivation is at the heart of character development, which we've done episodes about character development. So go check those out.
And it's like my favorite thing in the world. I love
I do
character
too.
development.
I love creating my characters.
Me too.
They're real people in my head. I just love it. It is not the same thing as a goal,
Oh,
which is confusing because you
right.
often think of goals as being motivation. That's why you're doing something to reach this goal.
Right.
A goal is something that a character wants to achieve. It is a conscious objective like getting rich or winning the World Cup or, whatever Harry Potter's different things was that he wanted. Wow, that was not proper grammar.
You're a writer. It's fine. You can break rules.
There you go. Well, I smashed that one. Motivation is the underlying reason why a person has that goal. Like
yeah.
the fear of being financially insecure makes them have the goal of becoming rich.
So, like, would you say it's more like the motivation is more emotional based, maybe, or is it, or more like abstract rather than like like I want to win this to get rich? It's more like the reason behind that, I guess.
It is the reason behind that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The need to prove themselves as someone exceptional would lead to the goal of winning the World Cup.
Right. Right.
So motivation is why, and the goal is the direction to get there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of you summing that up, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to understand our characters' motivations to write believable, compelling characters.
Yeah, which we've said, I mean, a billion times throughout this
Mhm.
entire podcast. I think that realistic characters are super important.
Mhm. Why have character motivations? Your character's motivations are what create an emotional bond between them and your reader.
Yeah, which, like, I guess in my opinion is probably the most important thing as you're writing a story. Cause, like, if your reader doesn't care for the main character, then you're definitely like, I mean,
You're screwed.
Yeah, sorry, my brain is not working tonight. But they won't care for the story if they don't care for the character.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. The better you create and render your character's motivations, the more believable, memorable, and compelling your story is going to be. So motivation makes it easier for your reader to get inside your character's head.
Absolutely. I also think, motivation sets up for character development, not in terms of like creating your character itself, but in terms of how your character changes over the course of a story or series. Because I think motivations can change.
I agree. And I think they probably should change, but they don't have to. Like, the series 24 takes place in one day. And so the motivations aren't necessarily going to change in that one day, but a great character arc
Right.
does accompany change, and motivation changes are a part of that.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So there are types of needs. Apparently, the psychologist Abraham Maslow um, believed that certain intrinsic needs had to be met before anyone could be satisfied and motivated to meet the next need on the list.
So like, is this I took
Yes.
psychology, but the
Yes, the
pyramid?
pyramid.
Yeah.
Yes. So the first human needs, so he had these list of universal human needs. And the first one are the physical needs: food, water, sleep, shelter, clothing.
Oh, so like the really basic, like that makes me think of Mercy, like when she's kidnapped in Silence Fallen, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and she's taken to Prague. And so she escapes her captors, but she escapes in coyote form. So she doesn't have clothes and she doesn't have, shelter. She doesn't have, so that's like the first thing that's on her mind is
Mm-hmm.
I've got to get somewhere to find clothes and supplies and shelter and like that kind of stuff.
Definitely. That's a perfect example. Safety, which is actually what she had to escape first to,
Right.
get out of that. Once the physical needs are met, security becomes important: personal, financial, emotional, and physical.
Right. So I guess like the first thing that comes to mind when I think about this is like if you have super dangerous creatures in the world that you've created, then I think a constant motivation is going to be I have to find a safe place to sleep or rest or whatever.
Yeah, that makes me think there was a series that didn't last very long where it was a sci-fi series where Earth was dying and people were, there was a lack of resources, and they discovered this wormhole
Hmm.
to another Earth that was in the dinosaur times of our world.
Oh,
And so they're like, we're going to send people to this other world, and we're going to do it right this time. We're not going to ruin this world. But safety was a number one priority because there were dinosaurs there that wanted to come eat them.
right.
So
Yeah.
they had to create a shelter that was protected from the different dinosaurs and that kind of thing. It was a really cool series.
That sounds awesome.
I'm sorry that it got canceled, but
Oh, yeah.
all the shows I like get canceled.
Always classic.
So after physical and the safety, then comes social. Once you have your physical needs are met, your safety is not in question, then you develop this longing for love and acceptance, which can be satisfied by family, friends, intimate relationships. So
Right.
that's the next step, this psychologist said. After that, when that's met, then you start to turn inward onto self-esteem. You want to be valued by those around you. You want to be personally valued. You want to be professionally valued. And then the last one he said was self-actualization. Once our basic needs are met and we're comfortable psychologically, we desire to fulfill the purpose for which we were created. We can go on to more spiritual.
Right. Like you can pursue your passions kind of
Correct.
thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really interesting, and I think that was very clever what he said. Of course, he's a famous psychologist, so I guess a
Well,
lot of
there is
people thought
that.
he was clever too.
I agree, though, too. I think that's a really good system to look at as you are creating a character and thinking about their motivations and, do they have all of those needs met and like which ones do they have met and which ones do they not? And that would give you a pretty good idea of, what your character's motivations might be.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great way to look at your character while you're developing the doing that character development.
Yeah.
There are internal needs and there are external needs. Like internal would be fear, greed, revenge, love, honor, recognition, freedom.
Nice. Yeah.
External would be money, laws or order, I guess, competition, praise. Also, external would be physical dangers like the hurricane movies that your dad likes,
Oh,
the
yeah.
earthquake movies.
Right.
Those needs goes back up to the safety. that we
Right.
talked about.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, listening to that list that you had of both internal and external needs, do you think characters probably could have more than one motivation?
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you think it's necessary? Do you think it's better to have more than one? Do you think?
I mean, don't you?
Absolutely.
So I think to make a realistic character, yes, I think they should have. Now, there might be one that is of overriding importance to them at that time, that everything else kind of falls to the side because this one
Is first
is,
and
yeah.
foremost. Right.
But I still think that they're going to have other motivations in their mind that
Do you
drive
think
them.
do you think a character can have conflicting motivations?
I think so. And I think that would be an excellent way to make your character realistic.
Right. And I guess it would give them a lot of the inner conflict and conflict that we've talked about in previous episodes would be to have these different motivations and these different reasons for doing the things that they do.
And that would keep your reader turning the pages to figure out, what are they going to do about this? What are they going to choose? Which motivation, is going to be the most important? Kind of goes
Right.
back to, I think we talked about Spider-Man having the choice of, do I save this busload of people or do I save my girlfriend?
Right. Right.
There's reasons that he's motivated for both of those, that he's
Yeah.
an honorable person. He wants the greater good, but he loves his girlfriend.
Right.
So, which motivation wins? And I think
That's a really good example.
Yeah.
I agree. Also, I have one more question for you that I was thinking about. Do you think a character can have too many motivations?
I think probably so. I think they might become debilitated if they have so many motivations that they don't know what to pursue first. At some point, you would have to have your character have that come to Jesus moment where they have to put aside, okay, this goal is this motivation, not goal,
Right.
is
Right.
not going to be for me right now. I have to
Right.
concentrate on this other one, because otherwise your story is not going to move forward. It's going to flounder.
I
I mean,
agree. I think it's important to stick to, a limited number of motivations just to keep the story clear. I think it would be easy to fog up the story.
I think so too. And you could have them lurking in the background to pick back up again in a later book in the series.
Right.
Because as urban fantasy writers, we often do series.
Often, yeah.
And so that motivation that the reader then would know about, that has to then take a second chair, so to speak, can come out in book 4 down the road.
Right. Right.
No,
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ambush you with questions because you like to do that to me.
That's true. I do that. Now, we talked about trauma. We did an episode on childhood trauma. So go listen to that. And how it results in different motivations for your characters. And I think we probably need to do, there are unlimited motivations that we could do episodes on.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Childhood trauma was just the first one we happened to pick. And we talked about how that trauma can motivate the character. It could make a hero.
Yeah.
Because they don't want whatever that trauma was to ever happen to anyone else. It could also make a villain because they were so traumatized that, they are broken.
Right.
So, this actually brings up whether your character might know their own motivations. A person might not.
Yeah.
It may just be a result of something that happened in their past, and they react in certain ways without even knowing why they're doing that.
Like consciously, I guess.
Like a person who grew up poor might grow up to be a very materialistic person, but they might not view themselves that way. They might not realize, oh, hey, I'm a materialistic person. They just want nice things, and they feel like they deserve nice things. They might not question their motivation as to why. They might not be psychoanalytic and go, oh yes, this is because I didn't have shoes growing up, or
yeah, absolutely. And I think it would be weird if a character, you're always going to have people who are psychoanalytics and think about why they are the way that they are and have a lot of introspection. But there are a lot of people who also don't do that.
That's right.
So I think it's really important to showcase both.
And also, these people, their motivations might not be rational.
No, yeah.
I have an irrational fear of enclosed spaces. You know this. I am a claustrophobic person.
Unless you're drunk.
Unless
Sorry.
I'm drunk. This is true. We put that to the test, didn't we?
We did.
I know it's not rational. I know that fear is not rational. As it's happening, I'm like, this is stupid, but I can't help it.
Right.
So my actions are to avoid being in tight enclosed areas.
Right.
And that is how my actions are changed by that motivation of mine, where I am, that fear that I have.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you craft your character's motivations?
Right.
So first, your reader doesn't necessarily have to know, they don't have to be told explicitly what the motivation is.
That's true. I honestly, I don't think they should be told explicitly what the motivation is necessarily, at least not outright and straightforward, explicit words. But I think the writer should absolutely know explicitly what the motivation is.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
One way to get your character's motivations out without just, blurting it onto the, I can hear your kitty cat.
I know, he's being very needy. He's on the floor and just meowing up at me. So,
oh, precious. One way to get motivations out there without being obvious is to use it through backstory. This is a great way to get motivation out there. I think we did an episode on did we do an episode on backstory?
I think we might have that, or it was just included in, I don't know. We'll have to look. I'm
going to write that down, because that would be a really good episode if we haven't done one already.
Because I know, we've got 73 episodes of this at this point.
We do.
It's hard to keep track of them all. So
it is.
Yeah, we'll have to look, but it would be a good episode if we haven't. And if we have, then go listen to it.
Yes, definitely. Plot twists. You can plant clues that reveal strengths and weaknesses, which is a great way to show your character reacting to
Your video did just go out, but I can hear you.
My camera went out. What happened?
It did. I don't know. I've had that happen before.
Okay, we're back.
Aggressive. We are
having technical difficulties, but we're back. So I was talking about plot twists, where you can plant clues that reveal the strengths and weaknesses of your character. That will, the way they react to those twists will give our reader an insight as to their motivations.
Oh, I see. Okay. I was thinking was it a surprising turn in motivation itself, or, I see what you're saying though.
I mean, but that could be too. Plot twists, that could be a plot twist where they have to change their character motivation due to other circumstances. So
right.
That could be too. Rocks, which we always talk about throwing at our characters, the way that your character reacts to those roadblocks that we throw at them is a nice way to help your reader understand their motivations.
Yeah.
Your character motivation drives the action in your story.
And I feel like it always should, right? I feel like motivation needs to be what drives the plot. Your character drives the plot, not anything else.
Yeah. Knowing your character's motivation helps you write, because you understand what it is the character wants and why.
Absolutely.
A character's motivation or what they want will dictate how they react to a stimulus within a scene. And I've got this scene that I found on artofnarrative.com. And I'm just going to read it. So the character is Jane. The character's backstory: Jane recently finished grad school. She has a master's degree in museum studies. Her dream is to become a curator at a modern art museum. However, Jane has found that demand for museum curators is low, even in the best of economic times. After searching for months with no luck, she applied to a small art gallery. This job would be the perfect entry to her career. She hasn't heard back in weeks, though, and she's feeling anxious. With money running out, Jane is worried that she may have to give up on her dream. This means taking a standard office job to make ends meet.
Right.
So her motivation is that she wants/needs a job at this local art gallery.
Okay.
The stimulus is Jane is in the shower when she hears her phone ringing in the other room. Knowing Jane's backstory and motivation, how should she react to this stimulus?
Yeah.
So the action is Jane leaps out of the shower, almost tripping over the toilet bowl on her way out. She grabs a towel off the rack as she runs to the bedroom, not bothering to turn off the water. She sprints into the room, her wet feet sliding on the hardwood floor. She falls to the ground, reaching for the phone off the nightstand as she goes down. Jane answers just before the voicemail picks up and manages a pained hello.
That's fantastic. You said that was from artofnarrative.com.
Yes.
That's really cool. That's a great way to break down the character motivation and the action that comes from a character motivation. That's really neat.
Yeah, I thought that was a great way to explain what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's definitely really cool. And I feel like I could definitely apply that to any scene that I have in my book. It's like if I have my character, performing an action, it might be useful to go back and see, well, what is the motivation behind this action and do I need it in my story?
I think so.
Neat. Very
And
cool.
then, of course, showing, not telling. We did an
Right.
episode on this for sure. I remember doing this one.
Yeah.
Give your character more than one motivation, make them complex, which is,
So that's what I was asking earlier. Right.
yes. And don't forget about your character arc, which you were talking about as well.
Mm-hmm.
As the character changes, so might their motivations.
Oh, right.
Once that fear is satisfied, what's the next motivation to come?
Right.
Use your writing journal to track your character. I think, of course, we did an episode on writing journals, but I believe this is the perfect way to use your writing journal. You can do flow charts for character arc as well as for the motivations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, well, I talk about using my writing journal all the time. I use it for, writing scenes out and like all that kind of stuff. But I also love it for making the flow charts that you mentioned as to why my characters are doing what they do. And I draw arrows to like, oh, this is why this happened. And it's related to this character and this arc and like all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. I think it's invaluable.
Yeah.
Let's see. Define your list of characters' core values, which is another thing you can put into your writer's journal. What are their core values? Think about where those values came from and explore this.
Yeah, I think that could be pretty relevant to backstory. So if we haven't done an episode, we absolutely should. And if we have, then again, go listen to that one.
And then those thesaurus books, remember we've talked about these many times. The Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi have written a whole series of books that everybody should go out and buy. The emotional wound thesaurus delves into those psychological traumas that might lead to motivations. There's all kinds of stuff in those books. You should go check those out.
Absolutely.
Mistakes that people make when trying to come up with character motivations or not coming up with character motivations.
Yeah.
Don't forget the villain.
Yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, he should have as motivations as well and be just as complex as the hero.
Absolutely.
We did an episode on villains, and they generally aren't, quote, just evil. They're just bad guys. They have motivations. And in fact, they often don't even consider themselves to be evil.
Right. They're just trying to do whatever they want, whatever they need to do to satisfy their motivations.
Right. And it may be that their motivation might even be something good, like the greater good.
Right.
The villain may just be willing to go about doing things that the typical hero wouldn't do to get there.
Right. Yeah.
Side characters, they also need their own motivations.
Yep.
Why are they helping the villain or the hero or whoever they're helping?
Absolutely.
Every character in your book is a real person, so treat their development as such.
Yeah.
Make sure you give every character an adequate motivator, including the antagonist, the supporting cast. Show those motivations and the way the character behaves, makes choices, and don't be afraid to have multiple complex evolving motivations, which is what we talked about.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah. And, you mentioned it already, but, and we, we've talked about it a billion times before, but all of your characters should feel real. And I think part of that is having their own motivations, and, those motivations of theirs need to lead to their actions. So, whether their action of, oh, the best friend backstabbed the main character, and you need that for your character to feel betrayal, their motivation for the betrayal needs to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was trying to think of, examples in the fantasy world that we write in. And
Right.
Mercy Thompson is one that came up in Patricia Briggs' Mercy Thompson series. Mercy is an extremely complex character. She has a lot of motivations. One of them was that she felt abandoned as a child.
Right.
Her mom couldn't handle her shape-shifting and turned her over to the werewolves because she didn't know what else to do. But
Right.
that left Mercy feeling unwanted and feeling the need to be needed.
Yeah.
She was always the outsider. And
Yep.
so that is also leads to her motivations. And then one of my favorite characters ever is Severus Snape from Harry Potter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she did an excellent job of showing his character develop throughout the entire series. And once we learn his backstory, we understand his motivations. And so, although he comes across as crass and mean half the time, more than half the time, we realize that part of this is a self-protection mechanism from what happened in his past, and that he is an actual honorable character, and that his love for Harry's mother is behind everything.
That said, I don't think he had to be such a dick,
Yeah, I agree.
He still,
But
he had good motivations, but he was still a dick.
Well, he was playing a very dangerous game by trying to stay on the side of, have Voldemort's ear and trust. And so he kind of had to be a dick so that everybody seeing that would say, oh yeah, he really hates Harry. And he, I thought it was very well done.
I mean, it's not poorly done. I didn't say that, but I don't, I think there were a lot of things that he did as a character that were unnecessary. He's a complex character. That's the point. Yes. I don't think he's an all-around good guy. He had good intentions, but he was not a good person.
Yeah. And he had a lot of different motivations.
Right. Right.
Definitely a lot of motivations.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got. I think that's a fairly good description of the background of character motivations and what to think about when you're trying to write those.
Absolutely. Well, I have an interview question for you.
Okay.
Is it easy for you specifically to decide your character's motivations?
I don't know that I've ever really thought about it. My characters come to me and talk to me. I don't really create them. They've created themselves.
Not even necessarily just main characters, but even, a side character that you decide to toss in. Is it easy for you to come up with their motivations as well? Do you give them as much thought as you do your main characters?
I think I do. And I like character development, and which in a big part, excuse me, is finding out and delving into what their motivations are. I enjoy that.
Right. Yeah, no, same. I don't think I've ever really put conscious effort into devising character motivations. I think about it a lot more on my rewrite, because, as I'm doing something like, well, would my character actually do this? Does it make sense for this scene to have happened based on the emotions that my character is going through? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Because if Aiden needs money and she decides to ignore the fact that she needs money, that doesn't quite make sense.
Right.
She should be going after money if she needs it to survive, to get food and all of that kind of stuff. So I think about it more on the rewrite in terms of can I make this plot line cleaner? and make more sense. Is probably how I go about doing it. And that is a lot harder, I think, for me.
Yeah.
So, well, neat. I also have a sentence challenge for anybody who wants to participate with those. So just write a scene or a page. I pretty much limit myself to a page when I do my sentence challenges, and just use the sentence somewhere within your scene. So today's is, something tells me you have an ulterior motive.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Thank you.
So thank you all for listening. Thank you especially to Jen and Deanna, our patrons. We
Yes.
really appreciate you. Anybody else that wants to help support us can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/EDW. We would love your support.
Absolutely.
Deanna did mention that she really enjoyed one of our patron only goodies that we put up. Taylor did PowerPoint.
It was PowerPoint timeline, the way that I create my timelines for my books to help me keep on track with time passage in my novels.
And Deanna said that she really liked it. So if you all want to get access to that kind of thing, then come support us. You can find just about anything at our podcast, eatdrinkrightpodcast.com. Our email is there, links to our social media. So come check that out. Let us know what topics you all want us to talk about, and
Absolutely.
we will gladly do that. Give us any kind of thoughts about what we have talked about. If you have a different way of looking at something, we would love to hear it, and we'll pass it on. And I guess we will see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.